or evening or morning, I don't know the time zones. Welcome back to a new interview. My name is Ian Said, but most people know me as Tacho. And today I had the pleasure to talk with Gabriel Medeiros, better known as ploiw. As one of the current analysts in the South American scene, ploiw has been dedicated to contribute into the configuration and yearly updates of the Brazilian power ranking and everything it entails. Also, Blow is currently one of the best representatives of Pokémon Trainer in South America, a character that has seen his fair share of ups and downs in Smash, but fortunately not in Brazil. Blow, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm great. Glad to be here again. Hopefully we'll be able to go uninterrupted by any sort of technological problems. I'm happy to be here, and how are you?
So far, so good. We don't talk about the failed interview we had last week, so that didn't happen at all.
Yeah,
That's something that happened to another Tacho, who knows. But fortunately, I'm fine today. Want to start with the questions?
yeah, sure.
Awesome. So I want to start the interview knowing a little bit more about your past with the game. So how long have you been playing Smash casually, and how did you eventually found out about the competitive scene?
Uh, okay. So I started playing Smash on casually on Melee when I was a child. So I'm 27. So it was like I guess like 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I played at a friend's house and I liked the game. Eventually I bought the GameCube and then I played just the items on. I didn't even know about any competitive scene back then. I played Melee, I played Brawl, I played a bit of the 3DS one. I skipped Wii U overall and then bought the Switch and bought Smash on release, and I played a little bit on release. I got into the competitive scene in 2019, but then I quit immediately. I didn't really like it back then, and I came back in 2022 in France, and then I stayed.
Awesome.
I moved back to Brazil, and I stayed.
Cool. So, do you remember your first event both in 2019 and in 2021?
So, in 2019, my first event was the first event on stream for Camp Smash, the organization I later became a TO of in Campinas, and I played. I remember I played on stream. I played against Lucas. Both of us didn't know what to do. Both of our names were like our first and last names, not no tags, and just mashing. And then I lost first game one. Changed to both of us changed to Nest game two, and then PK Fire spam ditto. It was terrible Smash, but it was a lot of fun. The VOD is still up on Come Smash's Twitter or on YouTube. It's still up there. It's like their first spot or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it has over 100 views because I always show it to everyone how terrible I started off.
Interesting, interesting. It's always cool to have your first time playing Smash competitively in on stream. It's always for good laughs, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Um. So, and how was your first event in France in 2021? How did you find out about this event and how it was overall?
So like I remember there was gonna be like an online college tournament and I played on it and then I got to know some people that liked Smash. And back there and they invited me to tournaments. I didn't even look for them and I just started going.
Mm-hmm.
My first one I think was like a couple of months before I actually got into the competitive scene. I went to like a reasonably big tournament and I played people who I had no idea who they were. But in retrospect, I think one of them was OJ, the Captain Falcon.
Whoa.
Maybe. I don't know. And obviously I got bodied. I think I went 2-2. I don't remember much about it. But then I started going to tournaments like every week. And
Awesome.
I'd just like to say hi there to Revos and Clay in the chats. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I miss you, Clay. Come back, play again. Play more, Clay, please. Uh, so where does the tag blow comes from, and what is the pronunciation of the tag?
Everyone asked me, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously, I'd invite you to look down at your keyboard and just look at the letters. When I was a child, a friend of mine, when I was like, I don't know, like 8 years old, a friend of mine was like, "Let's play Club Penguin," and he asked me, he told me I needed a tag, and I tried my name, it didn't work, so I just got my finger and I ran through the keyboard. I did PLO and then just straight line, right?
Mhm.
And I just ended up clicking on those letters, and I just kept it. I don't know, just no creativity. You can pronounce it however you want.
How do you pronounce it?
People, I don't because I
Oh,
don't need to call myself.
fair enough.
So, yeah, in France, people would call me plow or ploiw. In Brazil, some people call me ploiing. Some people call me ploy. Some people call me plow. I don't know. You can say whatever you want.
Fair enough, I guess.
This
Uh,
is
so out of all the characters in the game, why Pokemon Trainer?
I, I don't know. I really like Pokemon, right?
Mhm.
Um, I've played Pokemon before I played Smash. I think I played every single Pokemon title ever since I started. So I remember when I started playing when Ruby and Sapphire released. So I bought a GBA. I played Ruby and Sapphire, and then I played every single Pokemon game ever since. And so I'm naturally drawn to Pokemon, I guess. And I started out in Smash Ultimate as a Crom main, but then I practiced a lot and a lot on training mode, and then I noticed after practicing that I was worse off with Crom than with most other characters. Uh, Maybe because the character was hard, maybe because I was bad, I don't know. So then I picked Pokemon Trainer, and then I started. I don't know, it was fun. Pressing Flare Blitz online was fun, and I just kept going. And yeah, I just stuck with it, I guess.
Mhm. Interesting. So, so you started playing Pokemon prior to Smash, of course. Have you ever played Pokemon competitively, either VGC or TGC?
No, I've done a bit of breeding. I played a bit of OU, a bit of Smogon ladders, but never really went to tournaments. It's too much. Like I think the prep work is too much, and I'm very unlucky. Like you noticed last Friday. Uh, so I don't think it's a good idea.
Right.
Um, to for me to play a critical hit kind of game. I don't. I think I would. I'd get destroyed.
Here, Fundamentals asks, can we agree that Mudkip is objectively the best Hoenn starter? I agree with you.
Absolutely,
I agree.
100% objectively.
Objectively and subjectively agree.
Yes, completely.
Yes. Although it's kind of weird because I kind of hate Gen 3 starters. I mean, although in my opinion, although that later changed when once Gen 8 came out, and then I was, wait, no, this is the worst gen in terms of starters. At least like design wise. Back then
I'm
I
not a
didn't.
fan
Back
of
then I
Gen
didn't
5.
have the concept of an axolotl, and then once I found out about axolotls, I was like, oh yeah, Mudkip, it's a nice Pokemon. And then once I found out about the competitive scene, I was like, yeah, Gen 8 sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. I The recent starters. Gen 8 was Gen 8. Okay, Gen 8 was the England region, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't like those a lot either, to
Yeah.
be honest. But yeah, the I really like Gen 3 starters. I specifically like Mudkip a lot. I also really love Gen 4 starters, but yeah, Mudkip is definitely the best one. And if you don't pick it, you're wrong. You're just wrong. You're bad at the game.
So, why do you think so many people have dropped Pokemon Trainer as the game went on?
Yeah, I think I'm the PT Discord really the our Clay's gonna know. I'm not a big Pokemon Trainer believer, honestly. I'm kind of a doomer. I think Pokemon Trainer is a late game mid tier.
Mm-hmm.
So like a character that as the game goes on, as people stop getting matchup checked, the character just drops off.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, against the top tiers, it doesn't have the best matchup spread. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm.
Uh, so it's not very good at just up a stock, the vibes. And yeah, sure. He plays
Pokemon
right.
Trainer Doomer, more like an average Pokemon Trainer main. uh,
Yeah. I feel like if I kind of disagree with hello, by the way, hi fundamentals. Long time no see. It was really fun playing with you back in Chile. Um, I think that PT, I kind of disagree with fundamentals. I think that PT is wants to be a character that's very cheesy and dishonest, but it's just not that good at it compared
mm,
to other characters we have, right?
yeah.
So, in my opinion, there's not really that much reward to pick PT because you can't really camp someone out like hard, and you can't really zero to death them either.
Mm,
So it's like an awkward, just bad character. It's bad at everything. Not yeah, like it tries to be good like a generalist, but it ends up being bad at everything, I think.
that sucks. Do you think that the potential of the character has peaked?
I like obviously there's things are being discovered all the time, right?
Yeah.
So people still lab the character, people still find new things, right? So it's not completely peaked. I don't think it's completely peaked. I don't think any character is completely peaked. But I feel like its tools rely on the opponent playing a specific way more than you want. So if the opponent really knows how to avoid, you know, your what you're going for,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of screwed. So I don't feel like Pokemon Trainer is going to get better results. I don't feel like the results are going to change significantly. Uh,
Mm.
in the latest Lumirank, in the latest Lumirank, not the in the top 200, there were no PT mains. So it was Noi, but Noi was as an Olimar. Apparently, he played primarily Olimar that this season. But in the results thing, we were behind like Isabel. We were behind some weirdo characters,
I
and
mean, let's be real with Isabel. Recently, Fura Ramen got like ninth and 13 into majors in Japan's with Isabel Game and Watch. Almost got
yes,
top eight with the almost got top eight. I was so sad. He was he was one hit away from beating Shida Yuki and getting top eight from winners. I was so sad, so devastated.
yeah. I mean, obviously, yes, there's that. But also, I feel like PT has a larger player base. There are more people that play PT just
You
because it's
know,
a
it's surprisingly no. Surprisingly, there are more Isabels than PT.
I'm not talking about relevant. I'm talking in general. Uh,
Surprisingly
last
no.
time I last time I got like I'm not sure how it is right now, but a couple like 6 months ago, I got the whole all the data from that guy that
Schu
got
Stats.
like yeah, Schu Stats. Yeah, I got all his data and I was taking a look at the amount of mains in PT. We still had like a significant amount of mains,
Mm.
but not that many good players, and all our good players end up going to a different character. So I don't know. And I
Or
agree
retire.
100% with what Clay said right there. The last message. PT is just a bad generalist.
Mm. Fair enough. Fair enough. So I recently seen a Japanese online event where a solo Charizard won against Steep Talent. Is it possible to have such a focus on only one character, or due to the limitations of each of the three, it's just not worth it?
I can't sit here and say that it's impossible while Neville's doing it, right? So I mean, uh, I don't understand. To me, it's inconceivable what he's doing. So I often will take time to try to like I want to learn what exactly he's doing because when I play Charizard, just Charizard, it feels terrible. It
Mm-hmm.
feels impossible. Like he wrote that Charizard just beats Cloud. Charizard alone beats Cloud in his tier list.
I
I
mean,
asked the PT card and we I don't know. I don't get it at all.
in theory,
Come on.
yes. In
Come
practice,
on,
it's
bro.
even. I think.
No, absolutely not.
With
uh,
enough, I think Charizard has enough tools to not let Cloud get limit and throw him off stage as soon as possible and kill him. Like
my problem
I think in theory, yes. In practice, it's a hard even
I
plus
think
0.5 for Cloud.
that Charizard has a couple of problems, right? Because Charizard is a very fast character. In
Mm-hmm.
theory, that hits really hard, right? So in theory, you can use that speed and just confuse your opponent through movement, right?
Yeah.
Like in theory, I get it. But the problem with Charizard, in my opinion, is his animation. So his head is forward. He has like his head is like this whenever he's fighting. He's his head is always straightforward. And furthermore than any most of his hitboxes, right? So like if you cancel your dash animation or your walk animation into like a jab, your head was farther forward than your hitboxes. So I feel like Charizard has a problem with the way he moves and the way he turns around. That he like he doesn't have a full hitbox on his tail, but he has a little bit of a stub like hitbox on the beginning of his tail. When he turns around, he sticks his tail out, so he shifts backwards. His moves aren't as safe as you'd want them to be
Mm-hmm.
for like a really fast character, and so like it ends up limiting him his movement his hurt boxes limit his movement and his hit boxes being not safe enough limit in my opinion his the pressure he can push because it's very like punishable.
Mm.
uh
Will you say it's the worst out of the three?
I think that it depends. Pokemon Trainer you can't really classify like that because they're not meant to be solo mained. Pokemon Trainer the different Pokemon are good in different situations, right? So Charizard, when both are over 100, is one of the best characters in the game, in my opinion. But in that specific situation, uh, if you're comparing Charizard at very high percents, like both at 100 and something, and like Squirtle at zero and your opponent at zero, they're really both are really good. That's the big strengths of Pokemon Trainer.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that if you were to solo main, I think Squirtle would be the worst. But for their specific roles, I think that Ivysaur is the worst.
Interesting. Um, Interesting. So, speaking of Squirtle, do you wish Water Gun had had the same properties as Brawl, where when on charge, it was a short range attack with a low damage and knockback?
I don't. I think that water gun is fine. I like it the way it is. I
Uh,
think water gun Squirtle without water gun is probably a lot worse. Like Squirtle, if Squirtle didn't have water gun,
I
uh,
mean, no, for context, in Brawl, Squirtle had Water Gun, but if you tap it twice, like uncharge it, it had a hitbox. It was like a short range attack.
yeah. I
So
mean,
aside from Water Gun, it also had a hitbox if you wanted like a get out of me tool if the character approached or if the character was gonna like get into the ledge as soon as sooner than expected. So it had a two you had a 2 frame attack for it to have a get out of me tool instead
yeah.
of
I
having
mean,
the Water Gun.
I'm never gonna say no to more options, right?
Of
Like you're never
course.
gonna like say, oh no. But like I feel like that kind of like a short range attack is not what Squirtle is missing. We have a bunch of those already.
Fair enough.
Uh, and Water Gun is already, like, in my opinion, one of our best moves. It's essential if our opponent is, platform camping us or something.
Hmm.
So we need, in my opinion, for Squirtle to get a big buff, like we need to be a bit like faster, more like a higher top speed, right? Squirtle is not that fast. Like, has great acceleration, but it's not that fast. We need a bit of a higher top speed, and Squirtle would be absolutely broken, just
Mm.
completely broken.
Not gonna lie, I thought when Squirtle came back, when of course PT came back from Brawl to Ultimate, I thought that the side B was gonna be like the running attack, the running off Squirtle, as it kind of made more sense. So, and I thought that the side B was gonna be something else. So it's kind of weird seeing Squirtle as this medium speed character, you know.
Yeah, I know, but if you take a look at the Smash wiki and just look at the stats, you'll see that it's not very fast. It's
Hmm.
just quite simply not very fast.
Yeah,
It feels fast because the hitbox are fast and everything is safe, but it's not that speedy. Its top speed is not that great.
of course.
Uh, but if it were faster, it would be better.
Oh, of
But
course.
I don't know. The biggest problem with BT, in my opinion, is Ivysaur.
Really?
Ivysaur can just get destroyed. It's very linear, right?
Hmm.
So it's cheesy. It's cheesy, and if you don't know the matchup, you're gonna get destroyed as well. But like, if you understand how to run around it offline specifically, I think it's really buffed online. But offline, if you understand how to play around it, it's really not that hard. And it's very linear because, like, Razor Leaf is not a very good projectile. It doesn't do that much damage, and it's extremely laggy. So if you just shield dash and just repetitively shield dash, you'll put pressure into Ivysaur where they're forced to, like, jump or like try to grab you, and their grab is reactable. Their aerial drift is very low, so you can just play around their aerials and just punish them. So it's, in my opinion, the best way to buff Pokemon Trainer would be give Ivysaur Yoshi's Air Drift and watch PT become top five.
Yikes. Why is Now that I think about it, why is Bullet Seed such an underused move? Is it that bad?
I love Bullet Seed.
Yeah, I mean, I love it too. Like I don't know why people don't really use it. Is it that bad?
It's that bad, but
Really?
it's really funny. Yeah, it's very bad, but it's funny.
Why?
Like,
Why is it bad?
there's a so if you hit it,
Hmm.
it does like 24%, I think. If you hit everything,
Yeah.
well, even without SDI, just because of the fault of the hit stun animation, the opponent might just fall out of it, right?
Oh.
If you hit it, the whole thing, you can't combo unless you can throw out an up B. If the opponent is like sleeping, yeah, sure, they'll get hit, but it's not true. So there's no true combos after it. It does 24%, and so not much reward, but the risk is just getting stuck in the laggiest animation. They can just sit back and just charge an F smash on you, and you'll take it. Uh, it's there's a huge risk and a very little to no reward, but it's a funny option,
Mm.
so I use it.
Fair enough. So, what is Pokemon Trainer's worst skin?
Skin. Oh, skin.
Yeah.
I don't
You,
like the green one.
you can say from Pokemon Trainer, the Squirtle, Ivysaur, and Charizard. Or is it all four of the green one?
I don't like the green one. I just don't like the green one.
In general, the four of them?
Yeah, they call Charizard. Yeah, I don't like them. I'm sorry. I don't. I don't like in my. I don't think I've seen anyone use it, but I just I, there's no reason for it. I guess I just don't like it.
Fair enough.
I play the pink one because of Emerald, and only because of Emerald. I like the Pokemon Trainer sprite from the because I like Gen 3, right? So I pick the pink one.
Hmm.
But yeah, It's not. I just don't like the green one, I guess.
Fair enough, fair enough. So, since picking up Pokemon Trainer, have you played with any other character in a tournament setting?
I'm a solo main, but I occasionally play Yoshi.
Mm-hmm.
I really like how Yoshi feels. I feel like Yoshi gives you a lot of freedom to play the game. Like you can play like you don't need to think, you don't need to do anything. Obviously, you can play it, you pay attention to what your opponent is doing, you adapt.
Yeah.
But it's a very freeing character because of its air drift. And I also enjoy playing Dr. Mario because I just think just hitting the like everything is it's just hitting moves is very satisfactory, I guess. Not sure.
Yeah, fair
What do
enough.
you think? Do you like these characters?
Um, I think Yoshi is a top 10 character. Is a sleepy top 10 character in the game. I think Pokemon Trainer is a I'm it's like a it's in the lowest end of high tier or the top of mid tier, either one. The thing with Pokemon Trainer is that I can think of 30 characters that are better than PT, but I still think that a character that like Pokemon Trainer, I mean Pokemon Trainer main that has really great neutral and understanding of the game can get really far. That's why Tweak got their results with the character in the pre-pandemic era. Um, and then the thing with Dr. Mario is I think it's a bottom five character, but at the same time, Jassar gets amazing results with the character in Mexico, so I don't know.
Yeah, I really like the character just feels so bad, but
Yep.
like so bad in disadvantage that I will never play in a tournament. But playing it in neutral and getting hits and getting like an air dodge read and just really hard punishing your opponent for it is I love it. It's very like it feels really good. The
Hmm.
character sucks, but it just feels really good to play. So it's kind of dangerous. Like if I keep on playing it, I might have to become a Dr. Mario main and then get go 0-2 in every tournament. Um, but I'm not going to do that. No.
Fair enough, fair enough. So, do you feel happy about how the Ultimates roster ended, or will have like someone else added?
I partake. I'm not sure if you know of this conspiracy theory, but do you know the Rayman and Battlefield conspiracy theory? The
Yeah, of
Rayman locked
course.
in ice.
Like the Rayman is inside the ice capsule in
Yes.
Battlefield. Yeah.
Yes, I like if I whenever I look at that, I cannot unsee Raymond. That, in my opinion, that has to be intentional. And there was like a data leak like last year. Like it was a very big Pokemon data leak. They had a bunch of like Pokemon projects revealed, but there were a couple of Smash things revealed as well, right?
Hmm.
And one of the things that at least I saw, and I'm not sure like I have to look for it to see exactly to back up these claims. So please search it. Don't take my word for it. Uh, but one of the things that I saw was that there was a Ubisoft oh yeah, I think it was a Ubisoft. It was a Ubisoft deal that was canceled last minute towards the end of DLC Pack 1.
Hmm.
Um and yeah, you're right. Fundamentals, you're absolutely right. So there was a there was a there was a deal that they had a deal with Ubisoft, and apparently that went out. There was a Battlefield without the ice thing or with a broken ice thing leaked as well, and I don't know. It just feels weird to have Byleth as the last pick for first DLC pack. If it felt last minute back then, and it feels last minute right now. I think that at some point Raymond was strongly in the running, but they backed off, and now he's stuck in the ice forever.
Ain't gonna
That's my
lie. Ain't gonna lie. They're gonna add rabbits before they add Rayman.
I believe so too.
So I strongly believe that Rayman will never get into Smash because rabbits will get that spot, that Ubisoft spot. Even though I personally think that an Ivysaur Rift should be Ezio and not another Rayman slash Rabbit's character. But that's just me. That's just me that thinks that, or a Prince of Persia rep. That's just me because I love Prince of Persia and Assassin's Creed it's a pretty cool franchise. But it
Yeah,
will never
yeah,
happen.
yeah, totally. But personally, I prefer rabbits
Rabbits
to
over
the
Rayman.
human
That's
person
that's wild.
because I feel like Smash is better when there are less humanoid characters, like a bunch of those anime assassins with knives and whatever. It's just boring. It just looks boring. All those anime characters, it just looks bad, in my opinion. I would like Smash to be, for example, only Pokemon. If you had 80 something Pokemon with the wildest sets, like I don't know, like Toxapex, like you said Garbodor, for example, for that's a good example. Like just the weirdest Pokemon. Uh Meta relevant Incineroar, for example, like parting shot all over the place, intimidating you, debuffing you, and just running around. That that would be the Smash I'd like to play.
I mean, that Pokemon. If the Pokemon Company actually cared about fighting Pokemon, competitive Pokemon game, they would actually update it and had DLC for Pokken, and it didn't happen. So here we
It's
are.
it's what you and fundamentals are saying here. Pokken is just it's just because Tekken is I don't know.
It's
I
better
feel like
Tekken. What do you mean? The
let's
thing is
Smash is
simple.
better.
With that type of games, the thing is simple. Soul Calibur, Pokken, Tekken, in that order.
Yeah, I don't know. Uh, I don't know. My experience with Tekken was bad. I didn't like it. I agree. It's I know the Tekken lore. It's very convoluted. But I feel like a platformer with Pokemon would be so much more fun. The Pokemon
Potentially,
characters are just genuinely more fun than any Fire Emblem character in Smash Bros. And you could
I
have the
mean,
stories, right? You could have Aegislash and Zacian or whatever. Uh,
I
but
mean,
you'd have more diversity.
I think the issue with Fire Emblem characters is that they never had the chance to add a pure magical character of Fire Emblem because there are a lot of characters that of Fire Emblem that are not swordies, that are purely magical based. I think the closest we had of that has been Robin, and unfortunately has a sword. So, but they are purely magical characters in Fire Emblem that has not been added. It's like Tiki, for example. Tiki is a girl that can turn into a dragon. That
Yeah.
could be in Smash, but that hasn't happened yet. So I think the issue at hand is that yes, there are a lot of humanoid characters, but if they have a sauce and style, like for example, Shantai could be in Smash or Gino, and those are humanoid type characters, but they have a specific style that makes
Yeah,
them
I
look
mean,
cool.
they're not like the anime kind of, they're more like cartoony. That in my book, that still gets a pass, right?
Hmm.
But like, I'm not that much of a gamer. So I'm a big anime fan, but I'm not that much of a gamer. So when I see like a bunch of the Xenoblade characters, the Fire Emblem characters, and all those different anime franchises in Smash, it just visually looks unappealing. I feel like a neutral would look at that and they'd be like, "Oh, well, it's an anime platformer," and it just looks boring, I guess. If you want to commit to anime characters, just go for Goku. I don't know. Just go Naruto, Goku, and Luffy, and
For that, I will play Super Smash Flash, and I'll call it a day.
yeah. I mean, screw it. You don't need to go for this half-baked option. Oh, I don't want anime characters, but the anime fandom is so big. I want Xenoblade. It's like, oh, come on, just get Goku.
If I wanted to play an anime character, I will play either rivals of either the the workshop of rivals of either, or I will play Super Smash Flash 2. I wouldn't ask for an anime character in Smash. That wouldn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it's because people want the Smash's quality, right? I'm a believer that Smash just does so much better than other platformers because of the quality. If they were to like not follow those principles, but make the exact same game, but with a couple like with like Goku and Luffy, I don't know. I don't think like that Smash would cease to be Smash, you know?
I
It's
guess.
still it would still be the same game with the same quality.
I guess. Um. So, how long have you been at TO, and how do you got involved in such venture?
Yeah, that's the that's the bane of every Smash player's existence, right? Just to finish this, to read a fundamentals comment.
Have a solution to
Yeah,
smash into a gacha and make people gamble to make and to get
I
NK? No, no,
that would be funny. I
that
wouldn't
won't be
lie.
funny at all. It will just be a Battlefront 2 type of situation.
Imagine having like a character more broken than Steve locked behind a paywall. That would be
That
hilarious.
will be
Not just not for us.
shitty. That will be the
Uh,
worst.
but going back to becoming a TO, I became a TO in 2022. Like 6 months after starting getting into the community, I moved back from France to Brazil,
Hmm.
and I immediately became a TO. As soon as I got back to the scene that I came, because I started in Campinas, which is a town that I used to go to university in 2019. I went to France and whatever started really playing Smash, and then I came back to Campinas, and this time I not only joined the Smash community but also joined as a TO and started helping organize the tournaments, post VODs on YouTube and whatever.
Hmm.
And then I became the head TO for that organization in 2023. So it's just like 6 months of not being a TO and then just immediate TOing, right? I feel like I did it more because I had to,
Hmm.
for the scene to exist, you know. The scene was dying in 2022 in Campinas. The TOs were retiring, everyone wasn't really motivated. So I picked it up. I got some people back. I sent a lot of messages and I talked to a lot of people to get them back. I promised like I would go and I promised to like 20 different people that the tournament was going to be huge. And so they had to come. And so everyone came and then the tournament was huge. But I mean, I didn't know that before. And the scene grew back up. We did like a beginners tournament, which was huge, one of the biggest tournaments in Brazil in 2023. Lumiran counted it despite not needing to. I remember in our podcast, you were talking about like on the in the best reps. You gave an honorable mention to some of the winners in our amateur tournaments, in our beginner tournaments, just because Lumiran counted them when they weren't supposed to. So it's like it was a huge tournament. Campina's scene revitalized and it grew a lot, and uh, I felt like I had to pick it up in order to be able to play competitive Smash. But I don't regret it as well. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun as well.
Hmm. Interesting. So you're still the so you're not in Campinas anymore. You're now in Rio,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, I'm in Rio. I moved to Rio, and I moved to a neighborhood in Rio that's a bit isolated.
Okay.
Rio has many different zones, and traveling between these zones is kind of annoying because Rio has a lot of like mountains. It has a lot of like hills and a lot of roads. So like it's better for a city like Rio for each sub like neighborhood to have like its own scene. And my neighborhood didn't have a scene. We had a lot of very good players. So we had like Projeto, we had Revos, we had White, we had Mr. Boz. We had a bunch of some of the best players in Rio, but we didn't have a scene for that neighborhood.
Hmm.
So I gathered everyone, and we made a scene. We made a competitive scene that started out really good. Like we applied the same things, the same principles that I used to doing Campinas. We basically replicated the Campinas scene, but in Rio, and it was great. Right now, we're kind of in between venues. We're negotiating a bit, so not that many tournaments in the foreseeable future. But as soon as we get that figured out, we'll come back.
Awesome.
And it's thriving. The scene in Rio is fantastic.
Awesome. And is it hard for you to participate in an event that you're also organizing?
I feel like I call that the TO tax, right? So like every TO just kind of plays worse. As soon as because if you're the guy that has that the venue will get angry at if someone breaks something, you're not going to concentrate in playing the game, right? You're never going to be able to focus on the game and not look up and see someone doing something stupid and like yell at them, right? Uh, so you so it's just your performance is always impacted, right? But at least you're playing, at least you're having fun, you're talking to cool people, and it's worth it, I guess. It's better than not having anything, I guess.
Fair enough. So, and how long have you been involved in the Brazilian power ranking, and how have you found such an algorithm for it?
Okay, so that's a very, 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 very big question. I'm not gonna go as like we can go as far as deep as you want, but
As deep as you want.
it goes unfathomably deep, right?
Go for
So
it.
no, it's just the Brazilian power ranking was something that didn't really exist. There was an attempt that was done just in a straight up ELO ranking in 2019, but it wasn't really like an official kind of like PGR Lumi rank kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I've always liked rankings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of I'm kind of crazy really for ranking stuff. As I said, I'm a big anime fan. I rank every single anime I watch right now. I'm at 272, and it's everything is ranked. I just kind of, I like it, you know. So, I wanted to dabble in ranking algorithms. So, and I was in Smash, so I tried to do it, and I did the 2022 one, which was kind of bad. I'm not gonna lie, it was not a good ranking. The methodology was way too simple. I was just wanted to try something and see if people
Sick.
would react to it, if there would be support, if people would hate it. I don't know. I just wanted to see like test out the waters, and people, despite the rankings flaws, really embraced it, right? And so then for 2023, I changed the algorithm up. I increased in complexity and I made a ranking that was good, but it wasn't perfect. There were like some like objective flaws
Mm-hmm.
in the final product. And then in 2024, for the 2024 one, I tweaked it again, and it works. It was, in my opinion, it was the best ranking that's out of the three, and it was very like people when I talk to individual, like it's hard. I tell people to be frank and tell me as they like give me any feedback. I don't care if it's good or bad or whatever.
Yeah.
But mostly people took it very well. People think the feedback that I got for the 2024 ranking was that it was very precise. They might not agree with a couple placements, but nothing was very far from reasonable. There are no really big surprises, and that's the best the compliment a ranking can hear, right? I so yeah, it was. I feel like the algorithm is kind of solved right now, at least for the specific context of the Brazilian scene, despite not having like a lot of cross-regional events. So it's
Yeah.
like really hard for a player here, like for example, for Projeto to play Dokebu because they're like uh, I don't know, a 6, 7 hour flight away from each other. I think that's it. It's really hard for them to play. Brazil's huge. There's not that much money in the scene, uh, but I think that the ranking is good despite that.
Yeah, it is. honestly, from the rankings that I've seen in South America, is possibly one of the best right now, alongside maybe Colombia, and yeah, yeah.
The like I'm not big on saying a ranking is better than the other because at the
I mean,
end
what
of the day,
it, I mean, in terms of like how the algorithm of the ranking works.
I see. Yeah, I'm not familiar with how they do it. But we the big problem with the Brazilian ranking is that because I want to make it like kind of like a party for the scene and not just like here's the top 10 and that's it. Um I get 50 players. In the Brazilian scene, there were like 270, 280 players that played at least four tournaments during offline during the ranking phase.
Yeah.
So that would be a fifth. That's like the top 20%. Ranking the top 20%, the top 20 percentile, right, is a lot harder than ranking the top 1%, even if the total amount of players is so like uh, if you were to plot the skill level in a distribution, right, the top 1 percentile is very far apart from like it's a lot more spark. It's hard to how can I describe this? It's easier to rank players if they are scarce. So if they're in the top percentiles, the algorithm any algorithm is going to rank the top percentiles better than it ranks the middle ones, right? So the problem with the Brazilian scene is how large I make like I select the total amount of players I want to rank.
Hmm.
And I do that just because the people seem to like it, I guess, and I like it as well. And I guess it worked. Um, but yeah, it was the difficulty, in my opinion, is ranking the I don't know, 50 to 20, 50 to 15, I guess. That's the really hard part. And I'm not familiar with the Colombian power ranking. I don't know what they do, how many players they have. I don't know how many events they have. If the regions are close, if players don't play each other, I don't know anything about them.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm sure they employ different things and they do a different ranking. I'm not big on the comparing. Oh, this ranking's better than the other
Now, I
one.
mean, I'm not saying. Let me rephrase one thing. I'm not saying that one ranking is better than the other. I think that in terms of how an algorithm works, it's one of the best ones I've seen. Like
I
for
see.
example, the Colombian ranking, like the Zeta rank. They use an algorithm, and the algorithm works how the it works for the scene that it is in Colombia, similar to how the your algorithm works for the scene in Brazil.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
saying that one is better than the other. I'm saying that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're the ones that work the best right now in South America.
I get it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Do you want me to talk really quickly about how the algorithm works
please.
okay. So we have three rankings.
Hmm.
There's the first one is an ELO rank. Not exactly an ELO, it's an ELO like, so it's the same principle. Everyone starts with like X points, and then you beat someone with a Y points, and you gain or lose points depending on how far they are away from you. So that's how ELO ranks work. That's how chess does the ranking or tennis does the ranking.
Hmm.
And we have one of those. We have a placement rank, which is similar to Lumi rank, as in events in a certain tier give a certain amount of points, and your placement in such events will uh, will add points to your total.
Hmm.
So the first one is, and the last one is like a panel. So it's just one of the most common type of ranking for regional PRs is panelist voting. So like you get some pre-selected panelists to vote and you produce a ranking, right? So I took all of the traditional ranking types and First, I took a look at them, right? And all of them had different problems. So the Elo rank has a head-to-head problem. So a very isolated region, for example, Sergipe in Brazil with Andrescais and Juanito WhatsApp, they're very isolated. They don't play people from other regions a lot, and they have a very defined pyramid where every tournament that Andrescais goes, he wins. So he has like a 97% set win rate in the year. And Juanito will beat everyone, but only lose to him. And then it just goes down in a very pyramid structured thing. If you put that alongside the São Paulo scene, alongside all other scenes in an Elo rank, that scene will get boosted to the very top because of their win rate.
Yeah.
Because you don't because Andres guys doesn't lose points and whatever. So like their top two reps will go all the way to the top. So that's a problem. So head-to-head rankings have a problem when you are not playing each other, like different regions are not playing each other, right? So that's one problem. The placement one, the Lumi rank one, there's a kind of a bias problem because São Paulo is the biggest region, and the more big events you have, the more your players will be valued, and the more your region will have big events just because those players go
Mhm.
to it, right? So that's the same problem Lumirank has with Japan. We have with São Paulo,
Yeah.
and it's not one that you're in the Elo rank. If you do really poorly in a tournament, you lose points. But in the placement ranking, you don't. If you go to tournaments based and you get points based on your placement, but you never lose these points. So if you just farm tournaments, you will if you just farm tournaments and don't go O2 because there's like if you go O2 you get 0 points. But if you farm tournaments and you get like an okay position every time, you will go farther than someone that wins tournaments in a region with smaller tournaments or scarcer tournaments or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of a big region bias for this kind of rank, right?
Yeah.
And that's a problem with Lumirank. That's a problem with our placement one. And the way I tackled that was to limit the amount of ranked tournaments to one per month. So you can only one tournament per state per month, per region per month would count towards this ranking, and that makes helps it even out, but not that much. And the last one, the panelists one. The panelists one is really hard because
There's a lot of
it's a really
bias.
important. Well, excuse me.
Because there's a
I
lot of
didn't
bias.
Yes, there's a lot of bias, but there's also reluctancy to accept new incoming players.
Hmm.
So if there's a very established player that wins, like ever since Smash 4, people will, even if he had a worse season than like an up and coming superstar, I don't know, like a really good new player, people have a certain reluctancy to accept incoming, like the old gen just falling behind and newer players replacing them.
Mhm.
So all of these three rankings have their individual problems, but I believe that the problem that um, if I were able to get the vote rank without this kind of if I were to able to remove this kind of bias from the vote rank or and help the elo rank with their its own flaws through the placement rank and help the placement rank with both of them, like they compensate each other in their weaknesses and in their strengths. So the big part about the algorithm is not the rankings individually but how you combine them into
Yeah.
making a complete score. And so then a lot of data transformations, trial and error, just trying to normalize and just get everything, make everything pretty. And just so I know, what's do you have a background in like math or statistics? I know fundamentals here is a data scientist as well, but I'm not sure if he's still here. But do you have a background in math or do I go for the more simple explanation.
I don't have a background in math, but I'm huge on analytics.
Okay, yeah. Well, I uh each of these rankings I produced a from each of these rankings I ordered them and everyone has a placement. So everyone has three placements, one for each ranking, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. Fundamentals, you said save me from my job, please. I agree, save me as well. I every day I think about quitting and opening like a dog shelter or something. Uh, I
Is it that bad?
it's
Is it that frustrating?
yeah, it's very frustrating. Training models and just trying and just failing sometimes is just it's disheartening. It's terrible. But yeah, anyways, I'm crazy because I do this in my free time as well as with Smash Bros. Instead of practicing the game. I could be playing grand memes online, but I'm there typing in the Jupyter notebook trying to find a ranking. Yeah, yeah. I don't deal directly with clients. I'm more on the MLOps side, so thankfully I don't have that problem. But yeah, coming back to what I was saying, we each ranking produces a position. And from those positions, I will. So let's suppose you, Tacho, you're playing in Brazil and you get on the ELO rank, you get 50th. In the placement rank, you get 49th. And in the vote rank, you're like second. People love you. People think you're really good, even though the other rankings don't point towards that, right? Naturally, I will weigh less the one that's farther from the other two, right? The objective is how do I find the individual weight for each ranking score, uh, where they take everything into consideration, but they diminish the consideration according to how far away the player's placement is from the other two, right? So then, yeah, I trial and error and did a couple of gradient descent like solutions and you run it like 1,000, 5,000 times and eventually converges into something that kind of finds the sweet spot, right? Finds the right position for everyone
Mhm.
where they're not so far from their positions in the individual rankings,
Mhm.
and they discount the positions that vary a lot, so like a crazy like 49th to second kind of thing, right? So you do once you do all that, uh the end result is a numerical value and an order for the players, and that's what I posted. And it worked, but like I'd like to there are a couple of interesting things, right? The distance, for example, from 1 to 2, so from Gotham to offline, is 9 points, if I'm not wrong. I normalize those points, so the points are from 0 to 100, right?
Mhm.
Gotham is by definition 100, and offline was like 91, I think. And the distance from 50th, which was Juanito WhatsApp, to 31st, which was Pseudo, was 9 points as well.
Wow.
So that's what I'm saying. Which is expected, right? Because if you get a normal curve and you get the 20th percentile, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are close by. Um, and That's what you see, right? It's really hard to tell from like the 40s and 50s in Brazil to like the 80s and like the 70s and 80s, right? Um, we it's it's there it's very close. The people are like the players are very close from one another, but the
Mhm.
ranking overall I think was overall positive. Yes.
Awesome. So
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable dive on what you're
awesome.
asking.
So is there a scene in Brazil that has banned Steve at one point? And are there any ones that have the character banned now?
We have one scene in Rio Grande do Sul, which is the scene from Luquito, Fonzie, Mr. Zito, that has banned and will always have banned Steve. They have banned it. They have him banned for like 2 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and they're gonna have a big tournament in like 2 weeks from now. Smash Mahone.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, Steve is completely banned there.
Yeah. Interesting. How do you feel about the idea of banning Steve?
Did you see that post recently for the tournament this weekend that there were like 12 Steves in top 64 and
Yeah.
the second most was like two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cavalier Clash 8, right? Or Cavalier
Yeah,
Clash 5,
yeah.
I don't remember. I don't remember the number at the end. Yeah, but the Cavalier Clash, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind
Um,
of crazy, right?
I don't know. They had like two Steves in top 8 at the end. So, had like Susu and, of course, Syrup. And Syrup isn't Steve's solo main. It was a Steve Ness main. And Syrup beats Spargo with Ness. So, it's not like Syrup has Steve as a as a dominant main. It only has as an important tool. Like it's a main with a strongness second slash co-main.
But don't you
So
think, do you think that the most important thing to decide that is the top eight or how Steve affects the general amount of like the general scene, right? Uh,
I mean, I put this into perspective. Um, if a top 64 has a strong amount of a character, but at the end of the day, if the character doesn't reach high relevance into the tournament itself, like top 16, top 8, it doesn't really matter. Now, if the character has a high relevance in top 8, top 16, or top 8, that becomes like a shock. So it's like, Rob slash Kazuya slash Falco slash Steve has more than 6 representatives in top 64. That's a yikes. I see that the character that only one representatives or two got into top 8. Oh, that it's not really big of an issue then. It's only an
uh,
issue. It's only an issue if you have those types of representatives in the top 8 or top 16. For me,
don't you? I personally believe that it depends on who you're banning for. If you're worried for the spectators, like obviously the most important part of the bracket, which are the top eights and whatever, as long as everyone isn't playing Steve, like the top 10 players in the world aren't playing Steve, it's gonna be fine. If you're worried for the top players, for the players that are gonna win the tournament, then yeah, but what you said is totally valid. But I feel like uh from because and this is probably because I run a community that is grassroots. You having a very high prevalence of a character. If a character is overperforming in the high level, which high sub-top level, I don't know what you would uh qualify the top 64 of that specific tournament as. If a single character is taking players that are not supposed to be there and putting them at a higher position, right? That can be frustrating to the greater scene. So if you go to your local, so if I'm more preoccupied with that one guy that comes after work to enjoy his weekly and then just gets destroyed by Steve, just fights like a 15-year-old Steve and just gets completely destroyed by something broken and demotivate and just loses motivation and stops playing the game. Then with the top players that are earning money from those weeklies and will come back and continue to just continue earning money, right? So I think the discussion about um prevalence is not as relevant in top eight as it is in like top 64 or 128 or whatever. Um, because of the frustration, it is of the frustration, and it causes people to face it, right? So people who reach top 64 have invested into the game, and you want these people to get rewarded for their efforts, right?
Yeah,
And if there's a character that is reaching some sort of height with a disproportionately low amount of effort, it's worthy of at least a discussion to ban or not, right?
I think
Uh,
that for me, the thing with Steve as a character, like inside the community, I think that it is one of the few, um, like one of the few characters that have their players, top and high level players, constantly labbing together the character. So I think the issue is relies on the fact that the Steve community is much stronger than any other character community, and that's why the character is percolating so much in comparison to other characters. And for me, for the idea to ban the character just wouldn't make sense because of how hard the Steve community works for the character to be constantly better than any other one. If and even then, I don't think that Steve is such a strong character. I just think that there are some, but I do agree that there are some mechanics that just don't make sense. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't. But at the end of the day, at the end of the day, banning mechanics like, for example, ledge stalling, that was a huge one for Cavaliers Clash. That weirdly enough, only like I have seen it in American tournaments. I haven't seen it like in Japanese majors or European majors that much. And only a few players have used it, like Susu, for example. I think Pocket has used it as well. So unless we have like stalling and things like that, I think it will be better for the character to have like tech bans than have the character banned. Like for me, it just doesn't make sense for the character to be banned, as the character is not as strong as other characters in best games. And the issue for me relies on the fact, and the another issue relies on the fact that there is more yeah, counterplay for the character than before, like prior in 2022 or 2021, when the character was projected to be banned in comparison to now. I think that if we wanted to ban Steve, it should have been in 2022 and not now, when we're close to have a new Smash potentially.
yeah, well, I so there's I think that last thing you said is completely correct. Like banning right now, it doesn't really make sense, but it also does. We have to see wait for a new Smash announcement or just ban them right now. I don't know. So like um having the new Smash coming is a very valid reason to stay or to try. I don't know. Well, but there's one thing that you said that I don't agree with, which is banning tech. Um, I can't, as a tournament organizer, I can't ban tech because if someone loses to Steve and they come to me and they say this person used the tech, and the person comes to me and says I did not use the tech, and what
How do
happens?
you verify it?
What happens? Yeah, like um, you can tell them, oh, let's save the VOD. Well, my Switch doesn't have space, so they wouldn't be able to save the VOD. I could open the space up, but I can't ensure that every Switch in my tournament has the space has space for VODs. And the second thing is the tournaments I run have like 6 to 8 setups, but like Imagine going to like Paris or something, and there are 30 setups. You have a weekly with 30 setups, and there are a bunch of Steves, like a very, very large Steve community. And these complaints start piling up, and there are people not unable to verify. I don't think it's enforceable to ban text.
I I disagree. I think that if you outright ban uh if you outright ban a tech, and if you tell the Steve Baines, hey, you cannot use this tech, I don't think they will actually use it. Like for example, the ledge stalling, for example, that is one of the big contenders of having the tech banned. If you tell them, hey, you cannot do this tech prior to the tournament, I don't think they won't be inclined to use it, and you have that trust to you tell them, hey, don't use it, and they will not use it.
I think in general you're right, but when you're TOing, you can't think about in general. You have to think about the edge cases, about that one annoying player that will do anything to win on both sides. The one it might be another player from with another character that just lost to Steve that just falsely accuses the Steve for having the use the tech. I think that's a headache that is mostly unavoidable. I've seen discourse on Twitter on when PMLG was, or I think that's, yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, PMLG can
Was
the PMLG situation was pretty rubbish. Now that I think about it, no one
when they
uses
announced
PMLG, but sure, let's just ban Steve because of PMLG.
when they announced that, and they tried to, and some places try to enforce a PMLG ban. I've seen threads. There were accusations of people trying to saying that I was falsely accused, or this player used it against me, and I don't have the VOD, and there was like a bunch of stress, right?
Hmm.
From a tournament organizer point of view, I try to keep things simple. And I'm sorry, I don't feel like it's enforceable. At least I don't feel like it's enforceable on the weekly, grassroots kind of level. You know?
Although that what's the difference between ledge stalling and PMLG, the difference is
Yeah,
that
it's
you cannot
still
is that you cannot actually input a PMLG. It's just something that happens sometimes. It's not something that you can practice to input. Ledge stalling is literally putting a block in the air behind the ledge, and mine for tools. It's
yeah,
something that you can see and tell, hey, don't fucking don't fucking do this. it's
yeah.
something
I
it's
mean,
something that is it's something that is enforceable, and if you have enough trust for the players that compete in their tournament, it's not gonna happen. And in terms of, like, for example, a big tournament that you have, whether it be a regional or a major, you have pool captains, so they see the sets happen, and you have crowds and shit like that, and they tell you, hey, this people is stalling, do something. That's the difference between PMLG and ledge stalling.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure. There you can do that
Of
on.
course, there are limits to tag banning, but tag banning happened in Smash 4. Tag banning happened. A lot of tag banning happened in Brawl, and if it worked back then, it can work now. It's not a matter of. Of course it happens with. Of course the issue relies on the characters keep getting broken stuff, but for now I think the biggest issue is ledge stalling,
Yeah,
and it's something that is
I kind of
avoidable.
agree with Clay here. It's Steve gets new tech very, very frequently, and
Hmm.
you, it's like, yeah, right now the problem is ledge stalling, but there is a also another problem with how homogenous are the bands, right? So your scene has bands on tech A, B, and C, and then the other ones think that tech D is really broken. and should be banned. And then another scene has A and B and D maybe. I don't know. Uh, it just goes all over the place. I'm not a big fan of um, of of banning. Like Steve has so many problems
Hmm.
that if you were gonna ban the text, just ban him. Just ban him. And one thing you said, the Steve mains are very good at discovering things. I think that's partially true, but I think it's kind of a reward. It's because of the reward. They know their character is janky as hell. They know that their character makes like terrain, and the game interacts with the terrain in a very, very weird way. So it's more worthwhile. The chances you find of you finding something broken by labbing Steve is so much more worthwhile than by doing that with Pokemon Trainer, for example. So it's more like they're yes they're obviously they lab a lot more than other characters, but it's worthwhile because it's Steve. So it's just a weird character. And
Fair enough.
I think that there it's valid to have like the it's valid to have a debate of whether or not to ban Steve. Like if someone tells me Steve should be banned, I will I'll look at that and I'll say, okay, that's not an unreasonable opinion. The same way, if someone says Steve shouldn't be banned, I think that's not an unreasonable opinion
Fair
as
enough.
well. I personally, in my tournaments and in Rio de Janeiro, I do not defend banning Steve because we have Steve mains here. They're not majority, they're not dominating tournaments, they're not having unusual results, they're not growing faster than everyone else. They're just enjoying their character and just playing with it in a level that is not we don't have the same problems that they had abroad. So right here, I do not ban Steve, but I feel like it's valid if a community decides to do it.
Fair enough. I mean, in my opinion, there are two ways to ban Steve that for me makes sense. Uh, in terms of like regional, you talk with your region and you come to a conclusion if they want the character ban, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to the tournaments. And
Exactly.
if you have the opportunity to have one weekly that has C banned, the other weekly doesn't have it banned, and in succession, that for me is a better choice. Or like 1 week a month, the character is banned. Cool. And in terms of regionals, nationals, majors, it's important to have two opinions. Like the thing that let's make big boobs team did. You make a Google document and you like a Google form, and you ask the people that are going to the tournament and the people that are gonna watch the tournament, and you put are you gonna if you're gonna go to the tournament, do you want the character banned? You want Steve banned? Yes or no? And if you're gonna watch the tournament, you want to see Steve? Yes or no? For Let's Make Me Big Moves 2023 and 2024, they had the character banned because the people voted yes, I want the character banned. But for 2025, the character was not banned because the people not wanted the character banned. So I think for regionals, nationals, and majors, it's important for the people that are going to watch the tournament and going to play the tournament to vote if they want the character banned or not. It's much more simpler once you get into a tournament that once than in as a TO for the people that are going to play and watch than for the um, than to have all this issue of we have to decide at the moment if we have won the character ban or not. Now the issue for me of the reliance of banning Steve at a major event, in a national event, if I make a national event, for example, is the possibility of top level Steve mains or even top level players of that want to play with it best, and if they are Steve mains that kind of play the game because they have the character banned, they will not go to the event. That happened. I remember that happened in like Stone Ocean 6, Stone Ocean 7. I remember which event happened in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. There were a couple of players from Colombia that were gonna go to that Stone Ocean event in Venezuela, But once they saw that that Steve was banned, they dropped out of the event.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's an
valid.
issue.
Also, the reverse is true, right? If you play in a region that bans thief, you're screwed when you travel.
Hmm.
Uh, if you go to somewhere like you go to Japan and you have to face like a random like a 15, 14-year-old Steve Main, you're done. Uh, so yeah, it's definitely true, and it's I think it's more of a top-down decision, as in like the majors in Japan and the US and in Europe have to reach a consensus, and that will trickle down to the secondary scenes because players here, our top level players here, they want, for example, a stage list that reflects what the majors are doing.
Hmm.
Even if even if we bring stats, we bring opinions, and we bring like numbers that point towards the specific stage list or not, they will prefer what the best players in the world are playing at because they want to get used to those stages, right? Players are always looking towards the better ones, right?
Hmm.
So I think it's a top-down trickle down thing. So I'm not that worried because we it's not a problem here as much as it is a problem uh, elsewhere in the world. And if the rest of the world just bans it, if the top communities in Japan and in US and Europe, if they ban it, I'm sure most of the other scenes will ban it as well. But I think it's not going to happen, honestly.
Fair enough. So how's the rules in Rio, and does each community in Brazil have different rule sets,
Yeah,
or does it have a unified rule set?
no, every community has a different rule set.
Shit.
We follow the Rio de Janeiro rule set, which I'm trying to change. My main like there are 4 or 5 big organizations in Rio. I want to separate ourselves from them or to adopt different rule sets. Or to have everyone adopt a different rule set because there are a couple of things that I want to change. First thing, this is a contentious topic, but let's say it. Let's start it. Uh, I believe that character should be picked first before the stage bans. And that's
True.
not the most widely adopted thing in Brazil, and specifically the other communities in Rio have stage first, stage bans first, character second. That
Yeah.
doesn't make sense, in my
No, it
opinion.
doesn't.
Uh, I would like as well to have an odd amount of stages in the stage list and have every single stage be a starter.
Yeah.
I don't think that the uneven stages are uneven enough to warrant a counter pick. If both players decide in the first pick that both of them have the same amount of bans, decide that, I don't know, Yoshi's Story is the best, most even stage for that matchup, then let them go to Yoshi's Story, even if it's a weirdo stage. Um, uh, so those two things I want to implement, right?
Hmm.
I have tackled a project right now, which I'm procrastinating basically.
Yeah.
Which is I've got the responses, I've got opinions on every stage in Smash Ultimate, on whether or not it's a stage that helps you be aggressive and neutral like Smashville, or it's a stage that helps you be defensive and neutral like Kalos, and whether or not disadvantage is easy to get out of or hard to get out of. So like a stage that disadvantage is pretty that is easy to get out of ledge, for example, is Kalos is really easy. You just jump to the top platform and you have an extra mix up there. It's a lot easier than FD, for example, which is just a flat stage. You can't really rely on anything but yourself to get out of ledge and to land when you're being juggled. It's harder.
Yeah.
I think that opinions. The problem with stage bans is that everyone has a different way of looking at things. So if you homogenize the way people look at things and just apply the same parameters, there will be more consensus, right? And so what you want, if you plot these stages on a graph, you want to select a set of stages, whereas the sum is closest to zero, right? The distance from the origin is you want to minimize the distance from the origin of the set of stages that you select.
Yeah.
Uh, and you can from that reach a ideal rule set mathematically based on the parameters that I'm selecting, right? But the problem is the parameters that I think are valid are my opinion. I'm not that good of a player. I don't know if I'm the best player to take that, but I started the project. I threw out the forms. I have the responses that I wrote down the algorithm. I just need to sit down with the people in my organization and have talk to them about like, okay, so how are we going to consider every response? Like a low level player responded and a top 10 player responded. Do they have the same weight? Don't they have the same weight? A player from our community responded, and a player from the other side of Brazil responded. Do they have the same weight or not? How are we going to weigh these things? Once we get that, we'll be able to produce this rule set. But then there's going to be another problem that is okay. So this rule set is done. It looks weird. Do we apply it or not? How do we get past the initial rejection? Everyone rejects the rule set initially, and a change in rule set. People usually, when you deviate from norm, people really tend to react negatively short term, and then get used to it midterm. So like we have to find a period, like settle on a period of time. Like, okay, so we're gonna test this for like 6 months, 8 months. How many months are we gonna test this for? Right. So
Yeah.
like having these conversations is annoying. It's everyone has a lot of opinions and yeah. Fundamentals here said, what if you weighed instead of weighing, you made different versions per region? Yes, that would work, but you're assuming every region had a large amount of responses, and we did not have a large amount of responses. People don't care that much, honestly. So I have to work with the data that I got, which is not that much.
Fair enough.
I don't
Uh,
have enough to make
I
different versions.
just send you through WhatsApp the rule set that is in Europe right now since 2023. And I mean, I think it's the end of 2023. This is the rule
Yeah,
set that all of Europe is using, with the exception of some regions in France.
yeah. I based like my the thing that I said at the beginning, an odd number of stages and all starters. It's mostly because I used to play in France,
Mm-hmm.
and in France they use this rule set, and I
Yeah.
like it. I like it a lot. I think that the bands work really well, but people in Brazil are not used to it, right?
Yeah.
People don't know. People don't feel it. They're not familiar, so there's rejection. What is curious though is that in Campinas, I was able to implement this starter thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they loved it. They loved it. And people from São Paulo back in 2023 visited us in Campinas, and they tried that out, and they loved it as well, and they implemented that in São Paulo. So right now, the biggest scene in Brazil, like the strongest scene in Brazil, has full starter, like 9 stages, full all of them starters,
Yeah.
and it's just weird. While the rest is kind of following the whole Smash Four trend, like 5 starters, 4 counter picks or 3 counter picks, and all of them arbitrary. It's just all over the place.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have that much energy to fight for a unified Brazilian rule set. I just want a rule set that doesn't feel unbalanced, like the Rio de Janeiro one makes me personally feel uh unbalanced.
Yeah.
Synthetic data to fill in for smaller regions. I mean, fundamentals, yeah, but like let's suppose I there are regions that I have zero responses from.
Oof.
There are like it's not that I have a bit from everything. There are many categories that I have no responses from. So I have I'd have to check, but I think like since I have many categories like Rio de Janeiro or not, or whatever region you're from, and your skill level, like where you were, if you're a TO or not, or if you filter for the most nuclear categories, I barely have one response for each, right? So it's we really have a low amount of data to make anything that's very reliable. I think that that's also a reason why I've been procrastinating this a bit. I have to think of a way to get more people to answer this form.
Fair enough. Question: isn't it strange that in theory Brazil is separated by regions in the Lumen rank, but every time that the scene does a rank event, the team colors the whole country?
I didn't. What did you mean the second? Like I didn't hear what you said in the second question,
I
the
mean,
second part of it.
you know that if you check the algorithm of the Lumen rank, Brazil
Yeah,
appears in separate regions, right? Like
yeah,
it appears Southeast Brazil, South Brazil, etc., etc., right?
yeah,
When Brazil makes a D tier event or a C tier event, and it appears in the world map of ranked events of the week, Brazil appears that it instead of having the scene colored, instead of having colored the scene that made the tournament, Brazil as a whole is colored.
yeah.
Isn't it weird? Shouldn't it
I don't-
be only the scene that the region that made the tournament instead of the whole country? Like for example, Australia or Canada has the same, or Mexico has the same particular separation of regions, and they have like that separated region where the tournament had been colored instead of Brazil, in comparison to Brazil, where the whole country is colored instead of just that specific subregion.
Yeah, just before I answer your question, I'm just gonna answer what Fundamentals said here. I did that. I sent the forms to all the TOs, and despite that, I got basically nothing, or not basically nothing, but like 20 something responses, 22 responses, I think, including myself. So not a lot. Um, so the what you were saying, I see what you mean. That yeah, but I don't really like what why would it matter for the because okay, so let's put it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, imagine if the sub-region in Brazil was colored, okay?
Yeah.
If that's the only change, that doesn't matter. It's just a coloring thing, right? But if you're arguing that the amount of players in Brazil that get Lumi rank points should change per region, so if you every region of Brazil gets 3 reps, 4 reps, 5 reps, I don't know, then the total amount of reps in Brazil will change as well.
Let's
Uh,
put this into perspective. Back
is
then,
that what
when
you asked? Was that
let's put
oh,
this into perspective. If it is actually if it is Brazil is separated by regions, but they don't have it color. Why is it separated by regions? If the only why is it separated by regions in the first place?
because let's if Brazil's 5 geopolitical regions, right?
Mm-hmm.
North, southeast, south, northeast, and center, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, um, if you imagine they split into different countries, right?
Mm-hmm.
The biggest country in South America would be Brazil's north. The second biggest country in South America would be Brazil's center. Then the other, if I'm not wrong, the other two would appear in the top five as well. And the last one, the South, would be comparable to would be above Uruguay, close to Uruguay and Paraguay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brazil is huge.
Yeah.
Um, the 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 separation for the separation makes sense because it's huge. Um, I don't really see the point in a difference in coloring, if I'm honest. But I believe that separating Brazil in regions makes geographical sense because traveling between regions is sometimes more like more costly than traveling between countries.
Mm,
For me, it's easier to go to Uruguay than to go to visit Natal in Manaus or Aleixo in Belém. It's so like it's hard to apply the same principles for countries that are in completely different scales, right? If you're so like the question I'm asking is more, do you think that the reps like right now Brazil's top 10 are given Lumi rank points, right?
nope.
Well, most
Only the
other
top eight.
countries,
Only the top eight in every country, with the exception of top countries that is separation by regions.
I see.
Back then, Brazil was the only
Yeah.
country in South America. Like last year, Brazil was the only country in South America where the top 10 had points for each player in the top 10. Right now, no.
Yeah. Okay. So do you think Brazil should be separated by regions and at each region have like an X amount of players given points? Is that what you're saying?
Right now, no, because South America is not strong enough to have that type of separation. And if we had that type of separation, I don't think Brazil should be the one that gets that type of treatment.
Don't you think that's more of a geographical question than a gameplay level kind of question?
Honestly, no. I
Because
think I
it's
think it, I think it's in based on the level of each. For example, it's not for me. It's not the same if we have. For me, it's not the same for Brazil, if it is separated by regions, if we have Chile separated by regions.
but the problem is if you weigh more like if you separate things by regions, right?
Hmm.
Uh, Events that gather these regions go from a regional event to an inter-regional event, right? So there's probably going to be, because there are more people rated, because there are different regions, there are probably going to be a boost in rankings for these kinds of joins, right?
But they are boosted
Um,
in rankings.
no.
Yeah.
If you have different regions, if you have different regions and you have a major that brings people together from different regions, that major is gonna, if you have more regions, that major is gonna be more weighted. It's gonna be weighed more heavily than if you don't merge these regions and you only have one unique fused set of players that are ranked for both regions.
Let's put this into a news perspective. There are two rankings that when they weighted South America, there was one specific country that weighed much more than each one. In Schu Stats, for example, Chile is weighed more than any other country in South America because Chile is the country that is constantly playing against other players of other regions and or countries specifically against North American players. That's why you see you. That's why last year every month that had every month that Schuster was making their top 100, Toon was in the top 100. Or right now, Castle Wise, Keen and Toon and Frida RIP are in the are and Pepa are in the and Harlonga are in the top 500, where none other player from South America is in the shoot set ranking. Now, if we go back to the Lumi rank of 2023, the only reason they didn't do like a South American top 10 is because the top 5 of South America was only Venezuela because they had 11 C tiers and 80 D tiers.
Yeah,
So South America is so the issue with South America in relying on rankings is we in terms of this big rankings, normally they weight more different regions in comparison to the whole subcontinent.
I
In
agree with you on the result, but not the cause.
mm,
The final observation is correct, but the cause to that made you reach that to the explanation you gave for that thing, I don't think is the most accurate. Let me elaborate on both. I'll start with the Lumi rank, right? The Lumi rank uses a placement system.
yes.
The placement system is weighed by number of participants. All of them have a multiplier in South America, a 3-point multiplier, so that doesn't matter. Like if you're comparing two regions inside of South America, both of them have a times three multiplier, so that the multiplier doesn't come into question.
Nope.
And the uh, so so the the problem becomes the weighed players. How many players are weighed? And what's the size of the event? So those are the two problems. The problem with Lumirank, which was what I said during the placement part, was that the more big events you have, the easier it is to have a big event in the future.
Mm-hmm.
In the Even if the amount of players that go to it don't grow, because let's suppose you have a D tier and you get a new player that isn't ranked in Venezuela, they get top two in that D tier. Okay, then they will get I think 20, 30 points or something. They'll be worth more points. And then in the next tournament they go to, that tournament will have, instead of 3 points for that player, they'll have 20, 30. I don't know exactly the amount of points they're giving, right? So it spirals out of control. The regions that have the
But
largest
wait,
amount
so
of
sorry for interrupting, but right now, giving more points to players only counts for B tiers and above, and rarely on C tiers if the player that got first, only if they got first at that C tier event wasn't a player that was in the top 8 or back then top 5 of the list of players.
I
So it
mean,
was a specific situation that it almost never happened in South America.
it's the other way around, right? Because it's yeah, like the I get it. I get what you mean. So if there's no if there's back like we were talking back then, right? Before an algorithmic revamp in 2023, those rules were still valid. Or 2022, I don't know. Or back then it was still valid.
Hmm.
Right now, if it's not, then it's the big question is the amount of players, right? Because if let's suppose that each region has 8 players, is what you said, right? They're ranked, and you have a major that gets all those eight players together. So all those 8 players are there. They're all worth points and the same amount of points, I think. If they're not correct me, but a similar amount of points. Um, then what determines the amount of points that the Lumiere tournament is worth is the amount of players times three, right? Uh, Venezuela and back then when the Lumirank rankings had huge bias for Venezuela, had built either through the point stacking that I mentioned before, or through just larger tournaments. Um, had their tournaments were worth more, not for some arbitrary decision, but for the parameters that they set to score the tournaments. They didn't pick like, oh, Venezuela is the best region, so they're going to be worthwhile more points. They
I'm not.
attributed the amount of points, and they attributed the rules for selecting points, and Venezuela's tournaments either brought together the most amount of talent for the whole country,
No, I'm not.
or what do you mean?
I'm saying that the difference between the amount of tournaments that happened in Venezuela to the second in South America was so large that the algorithm for South American ranking was basically nuked because the top 6 of the South American ranking was only Venezuelans because of how the algorithm worked. That's the only reason they didn't do a South American ranking for 2023, and they instead decided of having like a top one of each region that isn't either North America or Europe or Japan, and they
Yeah,
decided with the top one of Middle East and or the top one or the best representative of Middle East and South America
yeah.
and other specific regions like Africa
Yeah, that's the problem with
and
the
Oceania.
placement kind of thing, right? So it stacks, right? You only earn points, and if you break the threshold a lot of times because you have frequent 160 or 180 plus player tournaments, if you break the threshold for towards counting points many times, you will nuke the ranking. It's a placement, like the type of ranking that is placement points, right? It's a placement point problem for that specific kind of ranking.
Mm-hmm.
um and the
Schu
you can,
Stats.
like, the reason for that ends up being that, I would guess, you tell me, that the most of the Venezuelan scene is geographically close together.
No,
um or no, or do
no,
you think that?
no, not at
Or,
all. There are like 17 regions, and I mean Caracas is the region that is like Caracas is like Caracas and Zulia, and mostly I mean Caracas is like it's like Sao Paulo, and and Zulia is like Rio de Janeiro, and then you have these other amount of regions that are rarely play against each other, and sometimes even some of those regions uh, are eager to play against people from Colombia far more because of the closeness between them and Caracas.
so the question I ask is, the tournaments, the overwhelming amount of tournaments that they had counted towards them in 2023, were they concentrated in a specific region, or do all of their regions have a higher volume of players than most of the other countries in South America?
The second one.
Okay. Do you know why Venezuela has so many more players, or had, I'm not sure if they still do, such a large player base in respect to other countries?
There are three important factors. One, because they have more they have a lot of reach in terms of like social media. They don't only use Twitter, they also use Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Telegram. So they're constantly marketing the tournaments for their specific scenes. So they have higher chances of getting new players, or higher chances of contacting even old players. Second of all, 2023 was a huge factor for tournaments because back in 2022 and prior to 2022, Venezuela wasn't the scene that had the tournament values for rankings. It was actually Ecuador, weirdly fucking enough. And so even when Venezuela had capped tournaments for 80 players, 100 players, 120 players, the ranking never saw that. So when 2023 had this algorithm where any country could place into the algorithm, Venezuela just boomed. And in 2024 had lower numbers because of social politics issues, and in 2025 it has the same issues. But even then, they still get a lot of tournaments because the scene is big. And another thing into consideration is because at least in Caracas specifically, they have a lot of sponsors. So, for
Oh,
example, in Stone Ocean, they had a sponsor with a big company that has food, that is Underwood. It's like a canned ham that is really big in Venezuela, and there's also sponsors with tech, and their tournament is in a mall, so it wasn't a mall with a movie theater in the top eight, so it was huge. And the other big tournament in Venezuela back in the last year was in the biggest convention center in of video games, like the VGS 2024.
Yeah.
Um, and another thing with this type of situations, most nationals are free.
Okay. Yeah.
Like Stone Ocean, for example, was a free entry event.
I see.
A lot of tournaments in Venezuela are free entry. I mean, not a lot. Like, I know selected tournaments that are free entry, or the entry is like $1 or $5.
Oh,
You're not putting a lot of money into entering the event.
yeah. The that's an interesting thing, right? Because remember when I was talking about the region in Sergipe
Hmm.
that has Andres Reis and Juanito,
Yeah,
they also run free events, right? And
yeah.
their the amount of players that they have is was really, really, really high when compared to other scenes in Brazil, right? I'm not talking about the same level as Venezuela. I'm just saying that having free events brings your numbers up, right?
Yeah.
And and I'm not saying I'm not faulting them for that by
Hmm.
no means.
Yeah.
I'm what I want to say is that that thing that you said about nuking
Algorithms.
rankings with algorithms placement algorithms specifically with the amount of with frequency of tournaments and amount of players have makes it so that for example Lumi rank bans tournaments that are weekly and tournaments that are every
Bi-weekly.
2 weeks. Yeah, and they I'm not sure what their stance is on pre-majors and post-majors, but it changes. They debate that a lot. And in the Smash World Tour, the deceased one, right?
Hmm.
They used to have a cap on the price. So only events that entry was above, I don't know, like $20, I don't remember, would be able to count for that.
Hmm.
That was on their rules. It wasn't enforced,
Hmm.
but it was on their rules.
Yeah.
Um, and so at the end of the day, what you're saying about bombing is really real, and the reason for that is the volume of players in Venezuela.
The
And
what?
going back to what we were saying about Schu Stats, um, I don't like the Shu uses an elo rank that is weighed with the Lumi rank tiers. So he uses the victories in tiers in Lumi rank tiers and he increases the weights in those matches specifically. And but it's an elo based with an attenuation factor. So like if you play if Wise plays Toon 15 times, their 16th time will be worth way less because they played a lot. They played each other a lot.
Hmm.
So scenes where the best players play each other to a lot of times are end up worth less. So regions where so whenever they are able to play players from abroad, as you said, that ends up boosting their place. I'm not arguing that Chile is the best region because in my opinion it is very clearly the best region in South America, but I don't think they weigh Chile better. It's just a consequence of the parameters that he chose.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of the ranking that Schu Stats does,
Neither
especially
am
because
I.
it's only time ranking.
Neither am I.
Uh, it's not a like in my ranking. If I give you a year, every single victory is weighed the same, independent on the moment, right? Since Schu Stats is a point in time ranking, the results decay over time. So the most recent results are worth more. And I don't think that's a valid way to rank over a season because it values
Mm,
the end of the season
I
too
mean,
much.
I somewhat agree with it. I mean, in my opinion, it's not the same to argue about what happened in January when you are in December.
I don't.
If it is the only time they played, yes, it is important. But if you have recurring sets one each month, and if we wanted to value what happened in January when you are in November or December, it's kind of difficult for me to care.
No, I know what you mean. But yeah, I agree with Mafia here. Hi Mafia, by the way.
Mafia is
It's
nonsense. Now that I think about it.
yes.
Okay.
He's the TO for Campinos right now.
Yes. Oh,
Um,
really? Cool.
so I agree with what he's saying because it's not a good season ranking because it's exact because it's a point in time ranking. So like what happens is there's a verification like how many months have passed since this set happened. So it loses that much weight. So if let's suppose that Toon beats MK Leo 6 months ago, that has a and you close the ranking, you publish the ranking on December. There's a decay. There's a huge decay on there's a 6 months decay on that win. That should that have that much of a decay? Is that does it matter that that win happened in July instead of December? Like in my opinion, it doesn't. And a ranking that takes a period of time should weigh that whole period of time equally. I understand decaying towards the like uh if a player plays the same player many times, the sets are worth less. Yes, I get it, but the sets should be worth less all over, right? Um
I mean, for me, it's difficult to agree with it because with what you're saying, because I do buy. I do semestral uh tier list for
yeah.
characters. So when I do the tier list in the second half of the year, I try to never talk about what happened in the first half of the year because I try to never count it.
No, no,
So
no,
the
I
same
agree with
happens.
that.
So kinda the same happens with rankings.
No, we agree on that. What I'm saying is imagine for your tier list, right?
Yeah.
And you're ranking the second semester and you're doing that in like January, I don't know. Uh so the sets in December are worth more than the sets in August. Does that
No,
make sense
they
to you?
no they don't make no that makes sense.
Yeah, that's my problem with Schu Stats because for Schu Stats, if they close a ranking in December, then the sets in December will be worth more than the sets in August.
Yeah, that's kind of an
That's
issue.
my point.
Yeah, that's kind of an issue. Sorry for not completely understand what you were trying to say, but yeah, now it makes sense, and it doesn't make sense for sure. That's why that's why and another series of issues that I have with true sets that I only use for character data, not for rankings. I use true
Yeah.
sets solely for character data.
Yeah. And its character data is not that great, by the way.
Really?
If you can, yeah, because if you want to, like, if he has you registered as, like, for example, Holy, the best
I
player in
mean,
compete
wait.
is registered as a,
I rephrase what I tried to say. Carry the
yeah,
data not in terms of rankings, instead of finding new players, of
okay.
searching for new players, of searching characters.
I would
That's what I mean
tell
about
you
character data.
to try to use the Query Smashers Apps database.
Which one?
I'm not sure if they have that available. I know that PG Stats used to publish their database recurrently. I'm not sure if the Smashers app have that, but the if you want to report your character as whatever you want, You just need to get on Schu Stats Discord and just go on the on find yourself on the sheet and type your character there. That's
Mhm.
how someone has to go and put the character name down for Schustat's character data. Right? So I don't trust it that much as much as I trust Smasher's app the way they do it, right? That they
Mhm.
just query StartGG and go by that. The best way would be by querying directly StartGG's
Yeah, of
or
course.
Smasher's app.
I mean, sure. I wish that I had the choice of searching for characters in Smash or App. Unfortunately it's not available yet, or if it is available, only in premium. I
Yeah,
don't have the money for premium,
they
so
they do it like that. But like before, and when it was PG Stats, they would post the database. So you download the database or you'd access it directly, and you
mhm,
just query it. So like, oh, players in Chile, Colombia, Brazil, or whatever that play with ToonLink, and they have X percentage of sets with ToonLink in the last X months.
yeah.
And you'll do that, and as long as the scenes report their character, you
I
you
mean,
have
yeah.
that up
That
there.
although that's another issue, you have to hope for the region
Yeah.
to report a character.
But at the end of the day, I mean, if you want like everything, you kind of depend on the scenes generating the data, right? But since you're going for the best, you want the best, those have reported data
Yeah, of course.
for sure.
So
Uh,
we've been talking a lot with Plo. Now I want to talk with Gabriel for a little bit. So tell us what you like to do besides playing and analyzing video games, specifically Smash.
so I'm I I really Smash is my main hobby right now,
Mhm.
but I'm a big anime fan. I'm also quite big on Pokemon. I play more Nuzlocke and ROM hacks than actual like VGC and all that. I'm a big football fan. Like soccer football fan, not American football fan. I support Flamengo in Rio de Janeiro, and I try to watch most of their games, most of the relevant games at least. And yeah, like I like those things for media at least. For doing stuff, I don't know. I'm big on my main hobby of entertainment wise is video games, but I like to work out. I like to keep active and do sports and do stuff. But yeah, that's I guess that's it.
Okay. So if there's someone in the chat that would like to ask any questions to Ploiw, this is your last chance. In the meantime, we will proceed with the landing round questions. Here is the moment when not necessarily Ploiw has to answer these questions as fast as he can, but nevertheless, there was a specific stage of the interview I could throw these questions at random. So Ploiw, are you ready?
Just to answer fundamentals, if I've played Inclement Emerald, I have it downloaded right now. I have played it. Yes, I do not remember it because I played like a quadrillion Emerald ROM hacks and they all like mix together in your head. But yeah, I've definitely played it. And
Okay.
no, Flamengo is the biggest team in Brazil. Have just bad taste in Mafia. And yeah, let's go.
Okay, so first question: what is your character demon? This means a character that you hate fighting, even if the matchup is favorable for PT.
I hate fighting Kazuya
Why?
because the risk reward is so terrible that like you can't make a single mistake, and I make a lot of mistakes. I'm very stupid.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, what is the magnification of your glasses?
I have I'm nearsighted, so I can't see from far, and it's -4, I think. I think more -4 degrees on both eyes, or -5, something like that. I
All
can't
right.
see at all.
All right. What's your favorite Pokemon generation?
4.
Interesting. Why?
Nostalgia. Just I played it. I like exploring. I like how you can go for multiple towns. You can access different parts of Mount Coronet, and it just kind of joins in the middle. I love the music. I love the generation. It's just exactly what a Pokemon game feels like instead of like a linear, like for example, Gen 5 from Gen 5 onwards, it became more of a get on route, clear the route, get to new city, there's a gym there, clear the gym, go to route, and repeat loop, right?
Uh,
Mm.
want to
So yeah,
guess? Want to guess what is my favorite generation?
five.
Nope. Good guess though.
No.
Good guess though.
Uh, so would you give me on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the hottest take? How hot of a take is what you're saying right now?
Maybe like a 3.5.
It's 7, isn't it?
Yes, it is 7.
Okay, yeah. It's a good generation. I like it.
Yeah, I freaking love the only reason that I dislike Generation 7 is the decision of making Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon when you already had Sun and Moon.
Yeah. It's very
It's very like what the hell? Why is
I
it
love
not a
money.
DLC? But
Yeah, it's very
sure.
like I just want your money. Money grabbers. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
exactly.
I get you.
They just invalidated. They just invalidated Sun and Moon with the release of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. But whatever.
Yeah, and
Um,
I just want to add something. Ever since then they stopped making the third game, right? Because I bought Ultra Sun Ultra Moon thinking that it's no way it's that bad. It's probably more like Platinum or more like Black 2 White 2. It's not, no way it's that bad. And it was that bad.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was.
I'm not gonna buy it again and they know it so they don't release it anymore.
Fair enough. But I mean, I think that Gen 7 has one of some of the best stories, some of the best ideas, like new concept ideas. Um, some of the best Pokemon designs. Some of the best interaction. I mean, some of the best implementation of a new region. Uh, some of the best competitive experience. So yeah,
I
at least for
mean,
me. And I have
yeah.
shitty takes, so take that as you will.
I don't entirely disagree with it. I think that it's a bit too linear, even though the
It
regions
is
are more open. It's you kind of get the feeling like, oh, I'm supposed to go here, I'm supposed to go here. It's a bit more linear than Hoenn was, for example. In
for sure.
Hoenn, I think it's genius how the first half of the region. So you go from Littleroot, Oldale, Petalburg, no, Normanstown, I forgot, Rustboro, then Dewford, and then you loop to Petalburg. But then you do the whole thing. You go for magma, go to the volcano, go down, and you go through the cave. So you go and you get a new path. And then once you get surf from Norman again, you go through the surfing in the third in the region. You have your first the route. You have the first rival fight. So you go through new parts of the region. You never really need to go back. To the same route, you unlock new parts of routes that already existed, and I think that's wonderful. And that has been completely lost. Everything is completely linear right now in route design, and I hate it.
I think the only issue I have with Gen 4 is just that it has such a mid starter pack.
As an immense what? I'm sorry.
As such a mid starter pack.
Oh, come on, bro.
I
That's
think
just three.
that people up Dirtwig and Chimchar are pretty mid starters.
I loved Hertwig. I love Chimchar. I dislike people a bit. Not gonna lie. So yeah, we will disagree on this.
Fair enough. Agree to disagree. Top five and what are in the top five anime in your list?
I'll open the list right here. So I have Brotherhood. It's a basic take. That was number one.
Ain't gonna
Uh,
lie, you want to hear my take on Brotherhood?
I'm worried, but yeah, go ahead.
I actually prefer Full Metal Alchemist instead of Brotherhood. I actually like the filler.
Did you watch Full Metal Alchemist before you watched Brotherhood?
No, I watched Brotherhood and then I watched Full Metal Alchemist.
That is insane.
I actually enjoy the filler.
Okay. Yeah. I like I see I have never watched Full Metal Alchemist because Brotherhood just covers the whole thing.
Fair enough.
Uh
I just like the filler.
but yeah, I get it. Like liking filler is like it gives you spend more time with the character, right? So
Exactly.
I mean, it makes sense. Number two is an anime that people are gonna criticize me for, but yeah, okay. I have Legend of the Galactic Heroes. It's very highly rated in my anime list. It's a very old anime, but I think the way it develops characters is it's crazy, really. The characters, some of the characters, specifically Yang, one of the main characters, he feels real more so than any other character that I've ever seen in any media. So I think I really rate that show because of the characters, right?
Hmm.
Then number three, I have Cross Game. It's a baseball anime, but it's a very good baseball anime. And the way they play with character, like the at the end, by the end of the show, you know the characters so well that they stop communicating. They just glance at each other, and from their expressions, you can tell exactly what they want you to say. The last episode, there's basically no dialogue. It's just the characters looking at each other, and you know exactly what they mean. And that's crazy because it's animated. It's not like it's a real person like moving their face or doing a complicated expression. It's just like a JPEG. And that's having that level of complexity and getting you to know the characters, even if they're not as deep as the previous characters that I've said, is insane. I think this it's crazy. To me, that's for lack of a better word, it's something I've never seen before in any media as well.
Okay.
Then number four is kind of also an elitist kind of pick. So Tatami Galaxy. I really like Tatami Galaxy. I've rewatched it like a billion times. I also love the movie that they released later. It's the same episode, just multiple times. Like so they have the I'm not sure if you watch this. So the main character just goes through his college days, but every episode he picks something different as his he makes different decisions, and then they just tie it all in together. It's genius. And number five, another basic pick is Hunter x Hunter. I just you don't need to.
Yeah,
Everyone
you
knows.
need to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. So what's your favorite video game outside of Smash? If it is Smash.
Yeah. The one I spent most time with is Smash. I'd say Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky.
Sure. I mean, I'm not pretty big on Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. I understand why people like it. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
But I understand why people like it. I just
Yeah.
no. But
Also,
cool for you to like it. It's
it,
it's one of the most interestingly developed spin-offs of Pokemon.
yeah, for sure. It's the best spin-off for sure, right? It's I think it's the most successful spin-off. I'm not sure. No, if you count Pokemon Go as a spin-off, right? Because Pokemon Go made more money than the main series. So what's the spin-off now? Uh, anyways, like
This
Mystery Dungeon, I feel like if I were to play it right now, it wouldn't have the same impact as it did when I was younger. But the impact it had when I was younger was so great that I have to mention it because it's like I remember that when I first beat it, I cried myself to sleep for like a week afterwards, and then I forgot everything about it. Like 2 years later, I beat it again, and I cried myself to sleep for for a week after that. So it's
Damn.
crazy. It's a very impactful story if you're younger. I'm not sure right now, but it was done with a lot of love and care, and I respect that a lot.
Fair enough. Although now I think about it, isn't Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu a spin-off?
I don't know,
I
maybe.
mean, I think it counts as I mean, and I'm surprisingly weird out that nothing has surfaced from that afterwards. Like it's a game that exists, weirdly enough, and nothing happened afterwards.
Yeah, I think it was an attempt to get the Go player base to switch to become interested in Nintendo Switch, right?
Do you
But that
play?
didn't really
Do you play
translate.
Pokemon Go?
I used to, but I don't want to. I don't like it.
Okay. Um. So who's your favorite Pokemon?
I don't have one. I don't think I have one, honestly.
Do you have a, like
I
at
don't
least like a top three?
know. For some reason, and I can't explain why rationally. At least that question doesn't make sense to me. Like ranking anime, I get it. Ranking like Pokemon is doesn't make sense to me. I guess it would be like, uh, you have a cat, right? So like rank your favorite cats. I mean, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. I don't like that. I don't
Uh,
know.
for
I don't
me
have
at
one.
least, I have a tier list with every Pokemon.
Oh, that's crazy.
I can send it to you after an interview. I don't have it right now because I'm not in my PC. I'm in my wife's PC, but I can send it to you right now if you're interested.
Yeah.
After
I
this,
the basic answer would be like Swampert, I guess.
which
Because
one?
it's my first Pokemon. Swampert because Mudkip was my first Pokemon, I guess.
Interesting.
Um,
Um. So do you listen to music while competing?
no, I need the game sounds if, or else I'll lose. I won't get concentrated. I'll listen to what people are talking about behind me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So last question of the night: who would you like to nominate for Hishi Daigo coming in a future interview?
Damn. Let's see. The so I like the Brazilian scene. I think you had a poll, and a lot of people that I would mention would be from that poll. You've probably already contacted them, so I'm gonna leave those behind. Um, I think right now in Rio de Janeiro, we all hate him, but I think he has interesting things to say. Is KNG? He's a TO with very interesting ideas, very interesting projects. He's going to do Stardust, which is going to be a major. He's doing like some interesting stuff. I think he's definitely a call. Someone from Campinas, to talk about the scene. I think talking with TOs is more interesting in the Brazilian scene at least than with top players, especially because you've already talked to most of our top players. Uh, but yeah, so someone from Campinas like Mafia or Norung. Norung would be a very funny interview. He's a very funny guy. And maybe some, I'm not sure which of the players in top 10 you haven't talked to from the Brazilian PR. Uh, so like Dokebu, I'm not sure if you've talked to him. He's been emerging, so he could be a fun talk, I think. Um, and let's see. Also, you know what a low key an interesting interview would be? I when I was in France, I met many French players. So like there are a lot of really cool French players like Leon, he would be awesome. Flo would be awesome. OJ would talk for 10 hours, but uh, I mean if you have time that would be cool. And Ray's from Australia too would be awesome. I think he's a very cool person, and Jay Dizzle and as well.
If you could send me the contacts of each of these players, like Twitter, if possible, it will be great.
I can try to talk to them and see if they're interested.
Awesome. Okay, so
Yeah.
here's where the interview is coming to an end. Thank you so much to ploiw. If the public wants to look up your social media, where they could find you.
I guess Twitter. Go to what the hell's my Twitter? I think it's yeah, it's my tag, and then 123 and underscore. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. If it's not, I'm sorry.
It's awesome that you don't say a tag. You say it's my tag 123 underscore. you,
Yeah,
you you have the you don't have the reason to say what's your tag. You just say it's my tag, and then it's like God damn it, just say your tag.
yeah, I don't.
I mean, but fair
People
enough,
would.
fair enough. It's the first time that this situation has come up. Okay, so to the people that are watching, don't forget to follow me on Twitch or to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you cannot miss the chance to watching any other interview that I make in the future. If you'd like to support me monetarily, you can find my check. You can find my links of the coffee and each sponsor in the description, or you can subscribe to my Twitch channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you. I will see you on the next interview tomorrow with Revosh, and hopefully you enjoyed till the end. And yeah, goodbye. The game.